So the question of how many credit cards should someone have can be a tough question to answer just because there's a lot of variables at play with hundreds of credit cards in the market, different preferences for different people, and even organization skills that can vary from person to person. So to me, I think the answer here isn't an exact number of credit cards that you should have, but instead I think there's really 4 ranges of numbers that you can fall into depending on what you want to get out of your credit cards. And these ranges can go from 1 to 2 all the way up to 10 plus cards. Now personally, I fall into the 10 plus range because I have 20 credit cards at the moment, and I'll talk more about why I have that many later on. But honestly, for most people out there, I don't think you really need anywhere close to that if you still want to get a ton of value out of your credit card setup. So as always, let's not waste any time and just go ahead and jump right into it here and figure out the perfect number of credit cards for you. Now, to start off, I want to talk about the first range of having 1 to 2 cards and go over some of the benefits here that you can still get with that little amount. And the cool thing is that as this video goes on, the benefits of each one of these ranges is basically going to just stack on top of one another as you add more and more cards. But at the same time, as you get more cards, it can get a bit more difficult to manage. So in my opinion here, there is going to be sort of a sweet spot that I think some people should aim for that's basically going to give you the perfect balance between getting still a lot of value out of your credit card setup while also being very easy enough to manage. So I'm going to talk more about that sweet spot a little bit later on as well. Now, the 1 to 2 card range is going to be mostly for people out there who really aren't looking to play the credit card game the same way that I do, as far as getting a whole bunch of different sign-up bonuses and then optimizing your spending categories and other stuff like that. So for the people who should have only 1 or 2 cards, there's really going to be 3 main benefits that you'll get out of a setup like this. First, you'll build credit history by having a good track record of on-time payments across those 1 to 2 accounts. Second, you're going to be able to have better protections from using your credit cards compared to other forms of payment out there like debit cards or cash. And third, you're going to earn at least some basic rewards from your spending, which is going to be pretty easy to keep track of. Now, when it comes to building credit and increasing your credit score over time, I think the credit cards are really just going to be the easiest way to do that. So by having at least 1 or 2 cards in your wallet that you're just using and then paying off on time and in full every month, what you're going to be able to do is show other lenders out there that you're being responsible with credit. The reason why this is important is because having a good credit score and good credit history is going to basically allow you to get the best interest rates possible in the future if you ever need to buy something like a car or a house and you have to get a loan for that purchase. So for example, I know that interest rates are pretty high overall right now, but let's just say that I needed a 30-year, $500,000 mortgage loan and I have good credit, so I'm able to get a 7% interest rate, which is actually pretty decent right now in 2024. So with that, I would have a monthly payment of $3,327 and I'd pay $697,000 of total interest over the life of that loan. But if I had worse credit, or if I neglected building my credit and I got the same exact 30-year, $500,000 loan at a rate that was just 1% higher at 8%, my monthly payment would go up to $3,669 and the total interest paid on that loan would go up to $820,000. So a 1% lower interest rate from having good credit doesn't really sound like much, but it really can impact both your monthly payment as well as the total amount of interest you'll pay over those 30 years. Now, that's just a really simple example, and there's going to be more that goes into your overall credit profile than just credit cards, but the point here is that if you're using just 1 or 2 credit cards and you're able to stick with ones that also have no annual fee as well, as long as you're using them responsibly by, again, paying them off on time and in full every single month, then you're potentially helping your future self in at least some way by saving tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest, and it's costing you nothing to do that. Also, on top of building credit, you're going to be able to take advantage of the better protections that credit cards offer compared to debit cards and paying with cash. So for example, with cash, if you lose it or you have it stolen, then unfortunately there's really no way to recover that and you're just going to be out of luck. And with using a debit card, it's also not really that great because it's pretty much linked directly to your bank account. That means if you lose your debit card or you have your card's information stolen, then that can allow other people out there to potentially also have direct access to your money, which can be quickly drained out of your account. And there's still protections in place where typically you will be able to get that money back if there's ever fraud or something like that. But I've seen debit card issues happen with family members where money goes missing and then it's really not that fun to deal with. So something actually happened last year where around $20,000 was just gone overnight from someone in my family because the bank just, I guess, failed to recognize a series of fraudulent transactions, and then it took several weeks for that bank to sort all that out and get the money returned. So during that time, the money was just not accessible, and I know that was very stressful for that family member because bills needed to be paid. Now, with credit cards, on the other hand, you're technically spending the bank's money there whenever you swipe it, so they act as sort of a third party in a transaction, and it's really their money that's at risk. And because most credit cards offer what's called zero liability protection, if there's ever any fraud or even if a merchant just gives you a hard time with a return or you get scammed on something you ordered, all you gotta do is just go ahead and call up your credit card issuer, and what they're gonna do is remove that charge right off your statement and fix the issue for themselves, which is a whole lot easier. So those are just some good basic benefits from having 1 or 2 credit cards, but now what we're gonna do is build on top of that as we move up to the next range here of 3 to 5 cards. So in addition to building credit and getting better protections, by getting more cards now, what you're gonna be able to do is just earn more rewards here as you start to optimize your spending categories for what you get back from your spending. Now, something I gotta point out here first is that the idea is not to just spend more money to earn increased rewards with credit cards, because honestly, overspending with credit is gonna be a very common trap that I see a lot of people fall into. So what I do and what I recommend other people do is just to get some sort of a budget in place first, or at the very least, just track your spending for a few months to get a very good understanding of how you're spending your money. By doing that, you'll start to see what your top expense categories are, which is then gonna help you decide what credit cards you can go out there and get that have good multipliers that match those categories. That way, you're basically just spending money that you were already gonna spend anyway, but now what you're doing is you're getting some better rewards in return. For most people, that means going out and getting a good card to cover grocery spending, one to cover dining spending, one for travel, one for miscellaneous expenses, and then maybe even the Built MasterCard for paying rent if you're a renter like me. So this is what I call creating your core credit card setup. I actually made another video talking about this called the only 5 credit cards you need, which I'll go ahead and link to down below if you want to go watch that after this video. But basically what that talks about is how to form the best 5 credit card setup, whether you're on Team Travel or Team Cashback. So if you're on Team Travel, then what that means is that you want to earn points and miles that you can then redeem for flights and hotel stays. And then if you're on Team Cashback, then you probably just want to keep things simple and only get cash back. Now, in the 3 to 5 card range, I think you should still aim to stick with no annual fee or low annual fee credit cards for the most part here. And if you prefer to be on Team Cashback, then I'd probably also say to go almost entirely no annual fee, just because it's going to be a lot easier that way. And there still are some really great options that'll get you 3 to 5% back in most top spending categories. And then I'd also recommend to go ahead and have a solid 2% cashback card as your catch-all card, like the Citi Double Cash or the Wells Fargo Active Cash, or a few other cards out there like that. There's also a new Robinhood Gold card that I wanted to mention here as well, just because it's getting all hyped up lately because it earns 3% back on everything. You do have to be a Robinhood Gold subscriber though to get that card, which costs $50 per year, so just consider that. But yeah, there's gonna be lots of great cards out there that you can add for cash back in your core credit card setup if that's what you prefer. For Team Travel, with having 3 to 5 cards, what I would say is probably gonna work best here is maybe a trifecta of some kind, like the Chase trifecta or the Citi trifecta. That's because both those cost as little as $95 per year, and they cover a lot of spending categories. Plus, they give you access to transfer partners where you can redeem your points for things like flights and hotel stays in the best ways. Or you could even do something like the Chase trifecta plus the Capital One Duo, which is probably what I would do honestly if I only was limited to 5 credit cards. Just do some research and look out for some good offers as well if you want to keep things simple by creating a 3 to 5 card setup. And as always, I'm going to go ahead and leave affiliate links down below that you can feel free to use if you want to learn more about what some of my favorite cards are. Just make sure that whatever offers you see through those links are competitive, but using those links is going to be the best way to support the free content here in this channel. So thank you in advance to anyone that does choose to use those links. Now, moving up again into the next range, we're going to have people that should get 6 to 10 cards. And as we transition further up this range, this is where I really think we start to find that sweet spot number that I talked about before that I think is going to be perfect for many people out there. But before we get to that here, I did want to mention the sponsor for this portion of the video, which is going to be Moomoo. So now that we're in the middle of earnings season, it can be good to just stay up to date with any potential opportunities that might be out there in the market when newly released earnings reports can help to drive changes in stock prices. That's where Moomoo comes in as a great commission-free brokerage that is going to give you the tools and insights to analyze and trade different stocks, including fractional shares of stocks, where instead of buying an entire share, you can just basically invest in slices instead. And the cool thing is that right now, Moomoo is going to be running a promotion where if you deposit $100, you can get up to 7 fractional shares of stocks like Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and or Apple. Another thing that I really like about Moomoo is that they offer a very competitive 5.1% cash sweep program where any money you have just sitting in your account that's not being invested is still earning 5.1% APY. There's no minimum balance required for this cash sweep program, and most importantly here, your uninvested cash is going to be FDIC insured for up to $1 million of deposits thanks to partner banks that Moomoo works with. So lots of great stuff to take advantage of here right now with Moomoo if you're looking for new brokerage, and you can learn more about Moomoo and all these promotions that they have going on at the link that I'll have down below in the description. Now, okay, as many people start to move into the range of 6 to 10 credit cards next here, a lot of the time what happens is that they'll get their core credit card set up in place of having 3 to 5 cards. And then if they're on the team cashback side of things, usually what'll happen is they'll just stop right there because they're pretty optimized at that point. But maybe in the future, they'll possibly add maybe another card or two if they feel like they want to. However, really it's on the team travel side of things where people start to see that there's a lot of potential to just go past having only 5 cards. That's because on team travel, there's just going to be a lot more potential value out there there as you continue just adding more and more credit cards to your setup, because you can get all these really lucrative sign-up bonuses, plus just really good travel features and benefits. So as you start to move into the range of 6 to 10 cards, you're going to be able to continue getting ones that can add value and really enhance your overall travel experience. And you're also continuing to accumulate more and more points and miles that you can use to fund, or at least partially fund, future trips. Now, in my journey, I sort of started with a student card in college that I didn't really use that much after I graduated. So my first 5 real cards were the 3 that made up the Chase trifecta, with the OG Freedom, the Sapphire Preferred, and the Freedom Unlimited. And then I went ahead and added the Amex Gold and Amex Platinum cards next. And then what I found as I expanded past those 5 cards into the 6 to 10 card range is that managing 5 cards compared to maybe 6 or 7 or 8 isn't really that different or difficult. So to me, I think the sweet spot number for maximizing value while still being easy to manage is anywhere from 5 to 8 credit cards, depending on what each person is comfortable with. For people that are really comfortable and really organized, they can start playing around with pushing into the 9 to 10 card range if they really want to. But for most average credit card users, I would say just get a good core setup in place of having around 5 cards first, then just add other credit cards here and there that are going to give you the best value personally, because each person out there is going to value different things. The credit card game is honestly really subjective. So for example, maybe you got 5 cards first with the Chase trifecta and the Capital One Duo combination, and then maybe you want to go ahead and add the Amex Delta SkyMiles Reserve card plus the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant, which are both expensive credit cards, but you travel a lot for work and you stay at that hotel chain and you fly with that airline a lot, so it makes sense for you. But maybe for someone else out there who got the exact same first 5 cards from Chase and Capital One, they might prefer to expand over to US Bank next with the Altitude Reserve and Altitude Go cards just to keep their annual fees very low, and maybe they're also not really loyal to any airline or hotel chain. So both of those 7 card setups should be easy enough to manage, but both are obviously going to be giving very different types of value to different people. The point here is just to always do your own research, and your mileage may vary, but also you obviously don't have to stop there at having only 5 to 8 cards, because there are a lot of other people out there, mostly on team travel, who decide to get comfortable with more and more cards, and that is going to bring me to the range that myself and many other credit card enthusiasts are in, which is the 10 plus range. Now, in this range, I'd say that what drives people to really continue getting cards is mostly going to be the sign-up bonuses, because there's just a lot of great offers always going on out there, and competition across issuers really seems to keep on driving these offers higher and higher. And there is sort of an ideal order to get credit cards to optimize for these sign-up bonuses that I talked about in another video that I'll link to down below. But the 2 biggest downsides that can keep a lot of people out of this range is that first, there's an increased need for time and research, and then second, the annual fees can get really expensive. So I've made videos talking about how I've earned over 1 million points, and then how I've redeemed those points for over $40,000 worth of travel just over the past few years. But I'll be honest, that does take time and research to do that, so it's not just all free travel, because I guess there really is a cost to using your time. However, I've always viewed this as more of a game and a hobby here, which is why I call it the credit card game in all my videos. So really, even though I am spending time researching what credit cards to get next and how to best redeem my points for hotel stays and business class flights, to me it's really fun, and I think that it's a key piece of the whole credit card game, that you have to have fun, and that has to be your mindset if you want to be in the 10 plus card range. At 10 plus cards, there's really not much of a difference here as you start to add each additional card, unless you really get to like the 50 plus card range. So really there's no limit as to how many cards you can get, and it's really just about, again, what you're comfortable with and what systems you have in place. And then the other thing that many people view as a real downside to getting this many credit cards at the same time, which is something that I get comments about all the time, is that I'm paying so much in annual fees, so there's absolutely no way that it's going to be worth it for me. To that point, I'd agree that for some people it is not going to be worth the cost. At the moment, my annual fees across my 20 credit cards adds up to $2,770, which even to me just sounds absolutely ridiculous to say that number out loud right now. But at the same time, I also know that I've done my research, and with each card that has an annual fee, for the most part, it's giving me equal or greater value and benefits for the cost that I'm paying. And most of these benefits have only recently become really worth it to me as I've traveled more and more in recent years. So for example, there's the Amex Platinum card in my wallet that has a $695 annual fee, but there's $240 of a digital entertainment credit, $200 Uber credit, $200 hotel credit, and half of a $200 airline fee credit that I know I'm gonna easily use every year in my normal spending habits. So that's $740 in value, plus I get to enjoy a bunch of really cool Amex lounges whenever I travel, which is something that I do look forward to, and personally I really enjoy and get a lot of value from. But not everyone feels that way, which is totally fine, because you can just avoid the Amex Platinum card and then save on the annual fee instead. I'm also just constantly reevaluating these annual fees and then canceling cards or downgrading cards as needed, so the total combined annual fee figure really does fluctuate up and down year to year. But my main point in telling you guys all this stuff is that hopefully you can see that there is a lot of time and a lot of research, as well as a lot of out-of-pocket costs that can go into managing this many cards at once. So again, just evaluate all these credit cards out there for yourself according to your own situation, and then also make sure you go ahead and take it slow as you start to add more and more cards to your wallet in any range. I think as your income increases as well, then that can also sort of play a role in making these higher annual fees a little bit easier, because again, even though you should be making sure that you are getting more value from the benefits of these cards than the cost you're paying, you do still have to basically front the annual fee every year. So I would factor in income level as well when deciding the right number of credit cards for you. Now, if you're really curious and you want to see my full timeline and my full journey for getting all 20 of my credit cards, then I just broke that down in a recent video that I'll go ahead and link on the screen over here that you should definitely go ahead and check out next. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.